Oh, that's nice, isn't it? That's a bit of Delta Sep, which is next in the review. I didn't see it. Let's have a look. Music get better by playing major scales, starting from a different note. Okay, just reading that, catching up with the comments. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can figure out scales, but I'm not very musical. I tend to, I think I tend to gravitate towards, what is it? It's sort of D relative minor or something along those lines. It's the one that's different on the way up, on the way down, but I think it depends on whether you have harmonic minor or relative minor. And I remember having an argument with my daughter about this because she's studying music, and they seem to have a slightly different definition. In the same way that we had a bit of an argument about whether something was 3/4 or 6/8. Now, I personally would take a swung blues groove to be 6/8, right? Sort of. But the school, the curriculum says it's 3/4, and I just don't buy that. I'm sorry. And I've asked other people. But anyway, whatever. How are we all? Everybody in the chat room. So we've got you guys and gals in IRC. Nice to see you. And also in the YouTube chat. All good there as well. It's a quiet week. As you can imagine, the week after Super Booth can often be a little bit less than full of stuff and news because everybody did it last week, really. I mean, I'm sure we've got other stuff to cover. I've got Gaz in this week. Everybody else is busy, on tour. I mean, it's touring season, festival season, all that stuff is coming around soon. So we'll have Gaz with us soon. I'll see if I can swap glasses. The problem is my regular glasses don't quite focus on the distance on the screen, whereas my screen glasses don't quite focus on anything else other than the screen. I think I'll stick with that. It's probably safer, isn't it? Okay, right. Let's have a look. That's an interesting point. Finn Corrigan says that in the chat room, key step owners will gravitate towards F minor. I'm guessing that's because of the way the keyboard is laid out. Is that right? that's nice. That's a stacked. This is a swarm oscillator, and this is stacked. Whoops. And then there's some drive. When you go into the blue bit, it oscillator starts to get distortion. So it's quite... It's very beefy sounding. I agree that Swing B68 personally say that faster tempo, complexly more 6. That's what I would say too. But hey, what do I know? I never studied music, so I can't really answer that faithfully. But yeah, there seems to be some question as to whether it's 6 or 3 when it comes to, because they have to identify time signatures of various things, and it's a sort of online thing. And my daughter was going through it, and I said that's 6/8, and she said no, it says it's 3/4. There we go. Cheapo Card Company, Swarm Oscillator, yes, if you leave it on for long enough. Very good gag. I don't think this is, because it's actually, it's all DSP. Although it's very dense, it's very heavy, this thing, so it's got a lot of stuff in it. Yeah, that's big, percussive, exactly, all of those things. So we're just waiting for Gaz to show up. Yeah, like I said, everybody's on tour, or doing. I think Rich is on tour. Chucky's just about to go on tour. Robbie's on tour. Matt's busy. So yeah, it's just one of those magic weeks. But I'm sure me and Gaz will be able to fill the air with our words for the requisite amount of time. Mathematically speaking, 3/4 = 6/8. Mathematically speaking, it's all about syncopation, well, or emphasis. Yeah, I would say. Excuse me. So what's been happening this week? I'm trying to think, really. Gosh, it seems to have gone very quickly. We've got the European elections here. If you're in Europe, they're tomorrow. I think are they everywhere tomorrow, or is it just the UK and other territories? I'm not entirely sure, but I've been doing my bit. My sister-in-law is in fact our current MEP, so I've been handing leaflets out. So I've just had a "can you get some milk" kind of email, which I need to. Let's see.
Hey.
Hey, Gaz. All right.
Hi, Nick. I'm just. I thought I could get in a little bit earlier today. Get everything working okay. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And if you can get more gain on me if you need it, or.
I can. Yeah. I've got a little bit more. Oh, okay. You got the birds and the bees. It's a very agitated blackbird by the sound of it.
Oh, I'm sorry, blackbird.
That's all right. I'm sure it's nothing.
I love blackbirds. Are really nice. They've got a really nice kind of chilled character about them as birds go.
They do.
Quite partial to them, and beautiful sounds they make.
4 and 20 in a pie.
I was getting a little bit hippie then, but yeah. Hey, so look.
I'm very orange today. That's really bizarre. I can't. Oh yeah, I saw you had the. Well, I've got this. Not that. I've got this.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beefy.
The Delta.
Sounds good. Some strange choices, I feel, though. I must admit.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean the oscillator themselves sound. The oscillators and the filters sound fantastic, and to be honest, the digital filters. There's 2 digital filters, a 12 dB and a 24. The 12 sounds fantastic. They're both I think the 12 is multi-mode. The 24 is is low pass only, but the analog is. There's also a 12 pole, a 2-pole analog,
I mean,
which is kind of nice.
Jörg is a very distinguished kind of creator of synthesizers, with many interesting ones to his name.
Yeah.
I mean, the radical stuff like the accelerator.
It's got the same sort of sound as there is a sort of almost a German sound, isn't it? It's like the Access, the Virus, that really sort of crisp, almost SEM-like stuff that just you get really
nice.
Yeah, it's got that. That's definitely, this thing is.
Oh yeah.
It's in chord mode at the moment. I haven't even put the distortion in. What happens if I put the distortion?
Can I hear that? Can I hear that 12 dB filter?
What, the analog one?
Yeah. Well, I...
This is it actually. Let me just turn it to the 12 dB analog. Hold on, if I play something in. That's the digital one. That's the analog one. It's a bit duller. And that's the 24 dB. Yeah, there's definitely a difference. I mean, there is a difference between them. I think the digital one matches quite nicely with the digital voice because it's all DSP, and obviously they're just getting really good at this sort of thing.
Yeah, I think Jörg's really into digital filters, which is really interesting to hear because that always seemed like the last great bastion of analog. But I still feel it with distortion. Distortion is distortion more than anything feels just more compressed in the digital. I don't know. There's something about distortion that just still feels more dangerous in the analog domain. I don't know. Sort of like digital distortion never feels as dangerous.
Yeah, I suppose. I know what you mean. Although there are some. I mean, there's that. Is it the Torpedo, the Roland thing? That's.
Yeah.
I know some people swear by that. That's got a lot of.
That's interesting. Yeah, those are really peculiar. Those little devices. They discontinued them now, I think, haven't they? That little range. So quite a peculiar.
You keep seeing them in people's setups, and they swear by them. They go, yeah, I know.
Interesting, isn't it?
I think.
I reckon
Matt Hodson uses his Torpedo in his live rig because it's stereo, so he can feed his final mix through it and create kind of various things. So yeah.
But the app which let you reconfigure it, let you go really deep. You can still download it and check it out. The app, it's got huge amounts of modules and possibilities. Those things. Yeah, I reckon they will become really collectible. I reckon.
Yeah, maybe so. I remember that there's a lot of stuff you could, but it's one of those things that you're going to have to keep a system that's going to be able to edit it. I think the iOS was the best one, and that's the one that you're going to have to kind of keep an iOS device around. Because they're even worse for leaving stuff behind than regular iOSs, aren't they? I can't remember. Do you think maybe there was a Windows one? I can't remember for that.
I don't know. Interesting. Yeah, that'd be not.
What's that?
Really interesting.
What is it
called?
Actually. Roland. What was it? What was the series called?
Well, they were part of the weren't they part of the IRA modular or something like that? Name wasn't.
Editor. Yeah, I'm gonna have a look.
What were they called? Modular. The little range.
Customizer. Yeah, they were IRA. BitRaiser. Yeah, they were IRA. I'm just looking to see if I can find the customizer. Let's have a look.
They're just peculiar little things. So I think.
Let's have a look. It looks like. Oh, hold on. What have I just done? I pressed the wrong button. Yeah, there we go. Look, OS X and Windows. There we go. So you could. So if you had one on Android, that would be a cheap way to keep, or a Windows. Windows is pretty good at.
Because are they FGPA? Always get it the wrong way around. FPGA.
FPGA. Did you get it right and I got it wrong? Then I can't remember. FPGA. Yeah. Okay.
Are they? I think these things might be. Those.
They may be. Yeah.
I think that's. Yeah, interesting.
Oh, well, that's interesting. I mean, yeah, might be worth getting hold of one of those. I mean, they do. They're basically the same, aren't they? There's just the DSP inside them, presumably, and the set.
Yeah, kind of. Some of them are laid out differently, and I think that some of the features aren't available in all of the modules. I'm not sure. I might be wrong about that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I was going to show you this thing, wasn't I? Should we do it on the show?
Yeah, let's do it on the show. That'd be much better. All right.
Okay.
I think the show is. I think speaking of shows, we can do it. I'm just trying to. I better switch on my my backup recording while I remember. Right. So let's have a look. Let's make sure I've got me that thing sorted out. Let's switch that one on. Okay, I spent all morning yesterday programming this new because the Raspberry Pi we used in Berlin is great, but it doesn't do USB 3 or Ethernet. So I've got this Orange Pi, which is a sort of similar thing. I spent all morning trying to get it working, and then it died.
Yeah.
Won't power up anymore. It's really annoying.
Frustrating.
I hope the OS is all right because that's what took the longest. Anyway, I digress. Right, let's go. Stand by. No, that's the wrong button, isn't it? Record, but god damn it. Come on then. Stop. Let's try that again. Right, we'll go to here, then we'll go. Hello everybody, welcome to Sonicstate episode 577, recording today on, what is today? Today is Wednesday the 22nd of May 2019. We're 3 weeks out from Super Booth. It still feels, honestly, it was almost as tiring as NAMM, I think, without the jet lag. So goodness knows what it'd be like for all our American friends who are there. It's just such an intense period. This is the podcast to do with music technology and controllers, software, synthesizers, music technology, all of the things surrounding the creation, making, performing of music, modern contemporary music, or any other kind of music you like. I want to say hello to everybody in the chat room. We've got people in the YouTube chat room. I see Battery Operated Orchestra and Ear Monkey music's in there, who's also Jim, who was there with us at Super Booth. Nice to see you both there. And also our friends in the IRC chat room. We've got these sort of old school chatties and the kind of the YouTube people. You can choose whichever one you want to go to. It's entirely up to you. Anyway, let's say hello to our guests because everybody else is on tour doing stuff. I know you're about to go on tour, aren't you? Or you're about to do some gigs, so you're off to rehearse. So today we were lucky to get you. Mr. Gaz Williams. How are you?
Hello. Hi. Yeah. Festival season starting up now in the UK. So they've got a bunch of gigs, including my old band, Rocket Gold Star, which we're playing. That's playing on Sunday, which is amazing because we only play like maybe once or twice a year, or maybe 2 or 3 years may go by when we don't play. So it's a real pleasure to actually get to play. But it's really, really difficult music. Oh my goodness. Coming back to it and just having to relearn it. Because it's a 3-piece band and we have to just all really work really hard to make this big sound. So 3-part vocals, and Frank plays keys and guitar, and sometimes at the same time he's of chords. And we were always of this idea of a rock band being like, I guess, like Rush or something like that, which was trying to make the whole thing. And, backing tracks would be an anathema to that whole approach. It's all the band is always about multitasking. It's crazy, but coming back to it, it's really, really hard to.
And now you're
to
thinking,
learn it
actually,
again.
maybe we could just.
No, well, but I mean, it's just weird. It's sort of I realise that it's a completely unfashionable way of thinking because I've asked people about this and sort of I'm talking about augmenting like a band with backing tracks or this like heroic notion of being as live as you possibly can, doing every single bit seat of the pants, and making it more difficult, making it difficult. You have to sweat, you have to really kind of get it.
So
to
how do you?
knock it
I
out.
mean, I got a question. Where do you document, or is that just from your recordings, or you just kind of all get together and have a collective memory of how it used to go, and then learn from
Oh,
that? How do you relearn it?
yeah. I've actually made a big Cubase project and put all the songs in. I've been trying to sort of play along with them again, but they just chop and change like nobody's business, the songs, and then it's the trying to remember how to sing it, because the singing is the hardest bit to get right, because you really need to be so focused to get a nice tone. Well, I'm not a great singer. I've never been a great singer, but I've had to really, really work hard at that part of it. But usually that's the bit that gets the least sort of rehearsal in a way. You go over all the parts and leave the vocal. That's always the hardest bit. And then
Well,
when I
it's
listen
easier.
back to
It's easier when you know what you're doing with musically, isn't it? And if you haven't played for a while, then you're going to be, concentrate.
it is like there is this thing, if you're playing and singing at the same time, there's this bit where the playing has to be so second nature. It just is. You just do it. It just is. You don't think about what you're doing. You just do it. You are that part. The part, and it's all as one. And that's the way to really to do it for real. But if you're having to think, what's next, what do I do, just that sort of those decisions, they really interfere with that sort of
So, okay,
belief.
here's a question for you: Are you dropping any of the more difficult to play songs? Just thinking, actually, let's do the slow one instead.
I don't know, we haven't actually decided yet what the set's going to be, so we got 3 days to get it together, and 3 days rehearsal and then a festival, so it's going to be a bit of a kind of just we're going to have to just go full on for it,
Right,
but
that's
it's
a lot of
cool.
work. It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, but there is a thing about it as well. It's that for me, I've always been like an artist, that musician, and that's my main thing. It always has been. Even I've done lots of production and stuff. This kind of artist in me has always been my main driving thing, and it's a really weird motivation, because it is really motivated for the art, because this would never be successful music. It's way too strange, so it's never gonna kind of get popular. So why do I put all of this into it? It's a sort of art. It's the art, though. Honestly, one day people will realize, jeepers, they were one of the best bands of all time, and I tell you, we are, and I
Well,
believe
that's one
that.
way. You sure there's not a little bit of ego in there as well, perhaps?
You got to have a bit of that, but
Yeah,
I
you
don't
got.
know. It's more of a.
But I mean
It's
that
a.
with I mean that with a small e, because I mean we all we all do. I mean we're doing this. This is about. There's about a certain amount of ego in this. There's a certain amount of ego in whatever I do online, because you get feedback from it, and it feeds. It's affirmation, isn't it, to a degree?
I get really done in about it, though, because ego can be such an unpleasant quality, but sort of belief, just or an unwavering belief in what you do. And I'm like just really passionate about stuff, and when cool things are happening, I'm really dead excited to talk about it. But I'd hate that to be, sort of being egotistical. It's just I can't really contain my excitement. So like for instance, like say take Rocket Gold Star. When we've played a great gig, we only ever play great gigs if I'm honest, because we don't play very often, and the gigs are really good, but I don't know when that crosses into something like ego. I don't know. I don't really know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, because, like I say, anybody in any creative industry or any with, you know, it's a lot of it's about that, but not projection of, it's feeding of, which is kind of a different thing. I think everybody needs to feed their ego to a degree. Otherwise, you have no self-confidence. And you have to have some self-confidence. Well, you don't have to, but I mean, if you want self-confidence, it helps you. You sort of need to be able to feed it to a degree.
Because I mean, why do any of us who want to perform in front of people want to do it? I mean, why? What is the point? You know, what is the point of it? What
affirmation? It all comes from parental ignorance. It all comes from parents, I reckon. And whether or not, and it may not be something. It's maybe something really subconscious that you have no idea about. You know, that you might have been into something that your folks weren't that interested in, or they were, but you didn't get enough back, or whatever. I mean, without getting too deep about it, I think that that's where it comes down to, or sisters or brothers, or you know, people that are close to us who have perhaps not been interested when we were kids. But I think that's maybe a different podcast, but you know, it is. I think it's good though. It's a fascinating subject.
It is, because you know, all of us want to make music, don't we? And like, you know, I think about this. I've gone on about this in the past, though. This idea that your music taste is your inalienable right. It's yours. Your music taste is yours, and no matter what anyone else says and whatever anyone else thinks, your music taste is still yours. And you know, and making music is almost like the ultimate celebration of your music taste in many ways, isn't it? You know, trying to sort of make something that just ties everything that you really love together, and then but that becomes quite intimidating as well, because you know, we set ourselves very high.
It's really, I think it's really interesting. I think it drives a lot of people, because by the same token, if you have kids, and we've all, you know, those of us who have or have been around kids, you want to tell them they're great all the time, and sometimes they're not. You know, sometimes that song they sang was rubbish, or the picture that they drew was really bad. You know, but if you tell them, what happens if you tell them they're great all the time? Then will they ever try very hard, because they're not trying to seek any kind of, you know, what does that do? Would that damage their potential for creativity because they think they're great when they're not? You know, you've seen it we see it all the time on talent shows. People come on and they have no idea that they're not absolutely terrible. You know, and then they are humiliated because they've got no sense of self.
Well, and we know this story with my terrible.
Yeah, we know that. I wish I could remember. I should have a table where I could say that was from episode so. That's a great story.
Yeah.
We'll dig it up.
That was Seb, but Ant and Seb, really quickly. Ant and Seb on the X Factor auditions, one of the most famous, abysmal auditions, and I'm completely responsible for making a production where we fixed his voice up to make him sound much better than he was. It's that recording that got him onto the show, blah de blah. When I saw it happen, I was like, oh my goodness, you know. Oh my goodness. Anyway, hey, I have talked about that before, but all you need to do is type in Ant and Seb into YouTube. Exactly. Oh my God. Indeed.
Well, the other thing that's quite interesting, I mean, we could broaden this out a bit, because we had the Eurovision Song Contest, didn't we, at the weekend, which is massive. I mean, if you follow us on Twitter, every year, most years anyway, I sit down, have a bit of a drink, type things I shouldn't do into my Twitter stream, and criticise or critique the acts on each one, you know, and it's just a tradition. You may or may not like it. It's fine. It's tradition. But this time they've changed it all around a bit. So there were various people. And I found out that Great Britain get in every year because they put more towards the TV budget, or they've reached a threshold, so they don't have to qualify. So that's why we never really seem to have anything any good, or it doesn't seem to really kind of tick the box. And
interesting.
Whatever you think about Eurovision, you know, it's a bit of fun, and I think there is. What's started to happen now is the music. I'm digressing a bit, but we haven't got anything to talk about, so we may as well carry on.
We have. This is the good stuff.
Okay, so the thing about it is the what's happening now is bands or people are taking hits that have already been in Europe, had a certain amount of success, and entering them, so that the public vote will always be massive because it's a familiar song. And that's a bit unfair, because you don't always get the cheese. You know, I think personally, Norway or Australia should have won this time, because they were complete. It should be a novelty record. You know, it shouldn't be a great pop record. It should almost be a novelty record, and that's the fun of it. But it wasn't. But in the middle of all that, Madonna performed. I don't know if you saw that. Madonna performed.
No, it was apparently dreadful.
Rumoured that she got £1 million or $1 million to do it. She was on, and Madonna, Madonna has made some fantastic records. She's toured, but she's never been a particularly strong singer. And so she put on this sort of huge thing, and there was something wrong. I mean, either her monitoring was off, which I suspect would happen, because she was so pitchy. And then that was the first half of the song where she was singing "Like a Prayer" because it was 30 years since "Like a Prayer," so she did that.
Hey, this
and
is
she did
amazing.
it while
Maybe
she did it while walking down some stairs because I remember that she had a problem with some stairs.
That's amazing. She's bringing it back. All these generations of people who've only ever heard auto-tune. I think it's amazing that she's done that. Oh, hail Madonna! Brilliant. Yeah, but she was making it real.
But the downside was it wasn't so hot. And it sounded to me, and then when they flipped into the next, the tune that she was there to promote, which is her new stuff, which she's teamed up with a new producer, I forget his name, but it was sort of like a kind of reggae sort of vibe, very auto-tune. But the thing was, the monitoring was off on the first bit, so she was pitchy, and the auto-tune was really hard on her voice, so it was kind of going, it wasn't actually nailing the note. It was,
oh dear!
And I think I suspect because the guy was fine and his monitoring was fine. So I think what happened was she'd maybe her ego, taking it back to our original subject, had got the better of her, and she pissed somebody off real bad who was in her tech team, because there's no way to a live 200 million people audience that you would let that kind of thing happen. It would be impossible to happen.
Ouch.
So I think I think that was a parting gift from one of her techs. That's my theory.
Blimey. Yeah.
But you didn't see it, so you'll have to take my word for it.
Oh gosh, I sort of want to see it now. But that, it is interesting though, isn't it, that people just have lost the ability to hear non-pitched vocals, or that's probably not true though, is it?
Well, no. The thing is, all the Eurovision singers, or most of them, are actually really good. They're really good singers. It's a brilliant production rehearse. They generally get the monitoring bang on. They can really hear themselves. But compared to Madonna, they were brilliant.
Okay.
She was just.
Could you hear anything? Well, could you hear anything to do with pitch though on the other singers? Did you hear? No,
I couldn't hear any pitch.
Well, rather, did you hear any
supporting vocal? There are some supporting vocals. Sometimes they'll support a vocal, but generally speaking, I think anyway, the vocal is live.
It's live.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, without any augmentation.
I don't think so. I mean, there might be. I mean, it might be. If there is, it might be very subtle.
Should it be like a legal requirement for
that
people
you've got to be
know?
able to sing?
Well, no, that you declare any kind, because it's a peculiar one that though, because if you use a compressor in a particular way in your vocal, it can really help you sustain and get your pitch right. So it's sort of like that compressor is kind of not is artificially messing around with my voice to help my pitch. Is that any worse than using an auto-tune?
Okay, yeah, but then we're getting to you shouldn't only be able to sing to that many people with no amplification, acoustic instruments background. It has to be totally pure. There's a piano on stage and a megaphone, and that's all you get.
But, good point.
I don't think that's going to fly. Anyway, that was the sort of roundabout way. But anyway, you've got you've got hold of one of the Behringer drum machines, right?
The 808.
Okay. I guess that's is it prototype or production? What have you got there?
I think it's near production. I think we're going to see them. I think in the next month or so.
Okay.
So I think they're very, very, very close. So this is I think this is like a production ready sample. And the thing is, it's massive. That's the thing, it's like it's a really big device.
It's big. It's not quite as big as the original, but it's bigger than the boutique, right?
It's kind of bigger in some dimensions. I was trying to find the dimension. I think it's a little bit wider. I'm not 100% sure. But I mean, certainly compared to the boutique, it's probably about four times as big as the boutique. And I was thinking about the boutique because I really enjoyed reviewing that, and I enjoyed using it, and I enjoyed the whole experience of it being like a recreation of the original. Like here we are, here's like a really, beautifully done little recreation. Whereas this thing isn't a recreation. There's only certain aspects of it.
They've changed the input, haven't they? They've changed the programming situation and some of the processing.
Yeah, the programming is, and there's a lot of like buttons, like there's, beat repeat buttons and stuff along the front here, and there's big auto scroll button, really big auto scroll button, which is a really cool thing to do with.
What's that?
The practicality. It'll just so when you're scrolling more than 16 steps. If
So okay. So it'll follow.
It'll follow, right. But it's a big button. You don't have to go hunting around for it. So I mean, I know that sounds like not a major feature, but it's really good because.
Is it making a noise?
It can make a noise. Yeah, sure. Can you hear that?
Has that got the? It sounds quite tight. It's hard to get the bass down the mic, obviously, but
it is. They've done a few things on the voicing. So, like on the bass drum, for instance, there is a tuning knob that wasn't on the original, so you can. But helpfully, there is these little orange dots which show the default positions. Oh, I don't know if I can see.
Oh that. I see. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, you can see little orange dots. So, for instance, on the tuning, you get the tuning on the kick, and can you hear that? Okay. Do you need me to turn it up?
Well, it sounds like I can hear it, but it's just thwack. There's no doom.
Thwack.
Yeah.
Well, you've got quite a longish decay. Hang on, if I put this around.
You pointing your mic at this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like a tone control, which takes kind of the tack, and then the tuning.
Okay.
That's nice.
And it's got that. What's it? It's like a wave hammer, wave shaper sort of transient designer thing on it as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So if I route that bass drum into it, we can do this. That's without it. That's with it.
Okay, that's quite extreme, isn't it?
Extreme cranked up, yeah. But then routed that through to the filter then, and you've got a high pass or a low pass.
Ah, okay, interesting.
But that's it's like a bus though, it's basically things either go to it or don't go to it. You just choose what you want to go to it. So, it's not mega flexible, but I mean, the thing you got to give it to them. Look at that on the back. Look at all of those.
Multiple quarter-inch jack outs. Yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah, look at that. I mean, they're kind of giving what a lot of people want, which is the simplicity and lovely purity of the 808 sound, but with the kind of connectivity. It's got USB MIDI on it as well as and we got 3 DIN plugs on there. They've done it, they're not skimped on the good stuff,
Yeah, I suppose so.
But it's big. I mean, it is a big thing. It takes up a lot.
What's it going to be about 300 quid or something? Is it? Do you know how much it is?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's like, whoa. But I think for some people though, the little TR-08 is probably more what they might be looking for, which is like if they want a historic kind of drum machine, then I think it's nice how they can both coexist. This isn't necessarily coming out and being the most definitive 808 historically. It's kind of, in a way, I think it's like the 808 too. It's it's sort of.
I know, but it comes. So Synth Anatomy says in the chat room, hi Tom. $299 US, so yeah, it's going to be around about $290, something like that. Oh,
crazy,
yeah,
crazy.
I suppose the thing is that this was interesting because I did an interview with Dave Rossum. It was brilliant. I had a big chat with him about kind of stuff, and he's really, he's all throughout his career, he's been helped by and helps people who design things, and will help, will review people's designs for instruments and synths, and he was involved in the design review for the LM1, right the way from back then to kind of where we are now, and still does it, and reviews people's papers on certain things, and the one thing that he's really hot on is attribution, and that's the thing. That I think he mentions it without mentioning names, but I think he was kind of a bit disappointed about the way that Behringer don't really attribute very generously to the people who've come before and made what they're doing now possible. And I think that's one of the things that he was, and I think they could handle that perhaps a little bit more graciously, couldn't they? I suppose.
Yeah. That's a good point. Because then it's sort of I think that could be goodwill that would be necessary, really, to kind of cure.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, good. But it is interesting enough that what I like about this thing is kudos to the Manchester team, because they're not prepared to just do straight clones. They want to kind of, they want to sort of innovate and make something new, and they did that with the Deep Mind. The Deep Mind started off as essentially as a clone project of a Juno 106, and it's a very evolved synthesizer with a flavour of. I think it's a really, I think that's a cool thing.
Well, what's that called, by the way? What's the actual? What's it going to be called? What's the model number of it? What's it actually?
Oh, it's called the RD808. So the rhythm designer.
I think they should call it 809. That would be the thing to call it, RD809. That would be
as a kind of
because it's sort of
it follows on.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, that's another thing. But while we're on the subject, I mean, I wasn't going to do this, but there's been talk of these designs for the DS880, which is this is the third one, isn't it? This is because the first iteration had all the kind of the memories in that left-hand panel, which seemed a bit stupid, really. But this looks a bit more like it. So this again is just a design. It's a design study. Is that what they call it?
Yeah. It's an interesting process, isn't it? Making it so public. This design.
And they're looking like. Hold on, I don't think we want any of that. So we've been carefully listening to your suggestions and come up with a new design. And yes, we're aiming for poly aftertouch. So yeah,
poly aftertouch, bang.
Which is the deal. And it looks like that. Have they put a strip on that? Because that's the key, isn't it? As well. Oops, sorry. The actual touch strip.
Oh, look at the long. It's got the long strip now.
Yeah,
I think the earlier one had a much shorter strip.
Good luck with being able to make that for anything approaching affordable, I suppose. But if anyone can make it affordable, they can. But I guess the other thing is they've not really gone after any of Yamaha's legacy designs, and Yamaha are a very different beast when it comes to legal muscle, I think.
Yeah, right. But mind you, it does bug me though that sort of poly aftertouch has to be sort of such a kind of luxurious thing. I don't understand why poly aftertouch hasn't been more widely adopted on lower. I mean, I don't know is it just simply
more expensive?
Really expensive?
More expensive because you got a sensor per key.
I know, but is it significantly more expensive? Because I mean, it makes an instrument so much more versatile and beautiful. I think it makes it feel so much.
Well, not only do you have to have a sensor per key, but you also have the ability for per note expression in the synth engine. So that's a sort of polyphonic. Has to be polyphonically a bit able to respond. So it depends on the engine. I mean, and not everything works. I mean, to be honest, I remember when there was aftertouch on most of the keyboards I was using in the 90s for remixes. Yeah. And I just filter it out because it was a pain. It just kept clogging up the MIDI. So I never used to use it, And then I was playing, Jim, he was playing the Jupiter 6, Jim Hayward, Ear Monkey Music, who did a bunch of stuff for Super Booth with us as well. He came here for a couple of days last week. He's back in California now. And he was playing the Jupiter 6 we tried it through the Clouds and through the Ventris. And it just, that's got no velocity at all or anything. And it sounded so good. So you don't need it.
Right.
It's not
okay, you don't need it. Okay, no, all right. But it is lovely. It is lovely and underused. Because I've been, I'm really into this because of the MIDI bass. Because I want to have, all the kind of, not so much aftertouch actually, but just individual voice. Fully independent individual voices. Interesting. I mean, I was thinking about Superbooth, and I was wondering about any trends or anything that we saw this year that we could kind of, if it might be a bit too early to spot these trends, but how we've seen a return to FM. I mean, like last year, FM was a lot more buzzy, wasn't it? I wonder at Superbooth this year if there was anything that kind of
digital, I think. Digital for
Digital.
me, it's, stuff that just fancy digital. I mean,
Yeah.
talking to Dave Rossum, he's got some analog stuff in his things, but he said the thing that excites him mostly is, he loves analog engineering and that's his kind of bag. But he said the thing that's most powerful and the most. Dave Smith, you ask him, he's the same. The stuff you can do with digital is so far outweighs what is possible with analog these days because of the
level of
flexibility
DSP,
the level of DSP and all of that stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting because I mean, like you talk about the Ventris. The Ventris is such a quality reverb in a pedal. I mean, the DSP that it must have must be, I don't know, comparable to rack units of the, fairly recent history rack units. It sounds that good quality. So it is interesting.
Put up a picture of it. That's that thing that I often use in the Friday Fun thing.
And it's got the two independent reverbs in that as well. But it's almost a bit too rich it's amazing, isn't it? But the point I'm saying though is that the DSP advances at certain rates. I think that seeing that level of DSP in stomp boxes, because I reckon that the Empress Zoya, that's going to have a fair bit of hoof behind it, isn't it?
I would think so, yeah. So that's another thing. But the other thing I would say from Super Booth is because of the new Curtis chips, whether they're actually the original or so you're seeing a lot of voices coming out, a lot of polysynths coming out. I don't know whether the MFB 8-voice analog, which has got 3 VCOs per voice, whether that's using Curtis chips or what. But all of the and they're developing new ones. I spoke to a chap, I think I've got his card somewhere, who was from the organisation, and he was telling me about I can't find my cards actually, and he was saying that they're developing new things. But all of this stuff, what Ben was saying last week on the show, the fact that these kind of VCO, VCF or VCA combos in chips means that you can just apply voltage at the correct point, so you can design your heart away without having to build that. But that's going to result in a certain amount of sameness, I suppose. So,
well, yeah, very good point. Very interesting, though. Blimey, yeah, and that sameness. I wonder, yeah. So, I mean, when you do get familiar with a particular filter, like the MS-20 filter has had, like Korg have been sort of using it quite a lot in recent years, haven't they? Sort of. In things like the monotrons and I mean that's a lovely filter to pick, but do they? I mean, when does the sameness? When do you start noticing that sort of?
Oh well, I think to be honest, I think
you
could, it depends on how hot you run things and how how much signal you put in, what the gain structure is. All of those things will add up to that same thing. Hold that thought, because I did forget to do the ads last week, and I think I would like to maybe not do that again this week. That was
Don't
really
forget
embarrassing. Yes, of course, Softtube. You may have seen them. They were very kindly sponsoring our Super Booth coverage, and this is an ad for the Parallels, which is it's actually their first virtual instrument that's not modular based. So this is kind of a first for them. And we heard it at Super Booth, and it sounded really nice. 2 parallel source sections with wave-shaped pre-recorded multi-waveforms, so you can scan through some quite drastic changes per wave. 100 of them taken from all sorts of rare and, in some cases, unreleased things. It sounded lovely, actually. They've got 14 voices, so 7 per side. You've got 5 sophisticated types of modulation: LFO, random, Euclidean sequencer, step sequencer, and envelope. Also, you've got modelled filters, analog filter type, state variable, which it seems you've got to have that these days. Vactrol LPG and resonant peaks, and this is stuff that they've got the chops from their modular stuff, which, as we know, is also pretty hot. But if you want to check it out, do go to softtube.com. It's no longer on offer, but I think it's $149. But if you didn't get the chance, check out the video that we shot at Super Booth where with Christopher Ulvis, he showed us Parallels, and it sounded bloody great, I have to say. Yes, but you're right. I mean, so in terms of trends, I mean, there will be both analog and digital, and I think the thing about what's probably likely to happen, it's the things like the digital control of the analog, which is the interesting stuff, because you could do some just sort of fascinating things that you just can't do with other things. And we've talked at length before about how digital is great, but you then have to spend so much time trying to make it sound less than perfect because it's too great sometimes. I don't know. What did you think? I mean, what was your kind of sense takeaway from Super Booth? Did you have a sort of Did you see spot any trends that are you ahead of time? Do you think?
Possibly things like in Eurorack, like those MIDI, like the Bafako MIDI box, just like lots of sophisticated MIDI implementation, and and we talked about this last week as well. The polyend preset, just sort of bring in aspects into Eurorack from another sort of realm, I think.
Oh, well,
does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, I do, but I think it goes back to what we were also discussing, which is the fact that Eurorack is a pain to reproduce things on. So therefore, are we going to start seeing? I think maybe what we're going to see is something that's a bit more hybrid. Something that maybe should have. Because I was talking to John Price from Kenton, and he was showing me his stuff, and he was sort of going, "What do you think we should do?" And I was saying, "Well, I reckon what you should do is look at a control voltage matrix, so that you can attenuate, invert, blend, mix." And I've spoke about this before. It was like the Matrix Brute. If the matrix of the Matrix Brute was available, maybe 16 by 16 or 32 by 32, and you could use that to program at the heart of things. Then you could throw CV out and audio signals, do all kinds of stuff. I think there's almost a utility. There's almost a utility tool there, which is it's a 16 by 16 matrix combined with a DC coupled audio interface combined with some kind of programmable. I think there might be some of that coming on, and then combining that.
Wow. That sounded red hot.
Yeah, it's only going to be about $4 or $5 grand, I imagine. But yeah, you get
but no, that's interesting. It's interesting. It's sort of trying to harness the good stuff without having to make things a pain in the bum. If you can kind of, I was thinking about that though. I mean, things like the matriarch is normal, isn't it? You've got like a full synthesizer going on normaled.
Yeah.
Then like the grandmother as well, and you can break that apart with patching it, and that's kind of an interesting. Is there a? I'm just trying to think what. Actually, analog 4 electron work quite well in that way now. You can have CV signals on the inputs now on the analog 4 on the Mark II. So. That's got a very
so I guess there's a hybrid world of that, isn't there? So that's where we're going.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can have CV inputs to the Minilog XD as well. That's got a pair of CV inputs.
Oh right.
So you can and I checked it out, and I followed. In fact, what I did is I used an external envelope, which was a full ADSR, and routed that back into the filter because it's only an AD filter on the actual envelope on the actual bit. So you could use a combination of MIDI to trigger the envelope, and then the control voltage back from the envelope in. So you can create these kind of hybrid systems. But if you had all of that,
that's proper hybrid.
Yeah. So I think that's where it's going to go, because people also want repeatability. I mean, it's all well and good to be standing at a huge system and just fairly beautiful. I also did an interview with Richard Devine, which I know I spoke about again last week, but about he was trying to aim for repeatability as well. So I wonder if that's where it's going to, because it's convenience. The human race gravitates towards convenience, which is why we've got supermarkets, which is why we've got all of these things that develop to service our needs, and we sort of aim towards the path of least resistance. So I think that's ultimately where things will go.
Interesting. So, I mean, I was just thinking then, though, but perhaps it's more of a NAM thing, but those oscillators, digital oscillators that are kind of highly configurable and so the audio, the Micro Freak and the Minilog XD and obviously the Pro Log as well, that kind of idea, and then having that inside of perhaps a more traditional analog synth, but having that really interesting expansion of the oscillator, that could be a kind of current trend, couldn't it? Maybe, because when did we first? I suppose the Dave Smith ones had that, didn't they? When they started putting, they did sort of digital oscillators, didn't they? Sort of in. Well,
I mean, yes. In fact, there's a there's a story, isn't there? Pro 2 has just been discontinued.
Oh yes, yes,
and that was
story.
I think that was one of the first DCO, or one of his first DCO synths, but it was also one of the first sort of uber polysynths of the new era. I mean, it was kind of ridiculous, wasn't it? What it had, I think, because I did actually have a thing. What was it? Was it Doty? Yeah, because there's this, which is Doty going on Doty's 8 or 9 part review of the of the Pro 2, which is more like a kind of manual in many ways. Have I got audio here?
Yeah.
I don't know. There doesn't seem to be any audio. I wonder what's happened to that then. That's annoying. Gone away.
I mean, I wonder what do you think? Do you think there's going to be a Pro 3 or something, or do you think that it's kind of its place has become a little bit more confused with the later synths?
It's an interesting question because, manageable polysynths that are a bit like the XD and the Minilog and 4-voice sort of stuff, the UDO, are all seem to be what people can handle. But you've got the Moog 1, which is incredibly expensive, obviously 16 voice, and the difficulty with having to manage that much analog asset inside a thing. I mean, I saw a picture the other day of somebody, and it's like 4 boards stacked up inside. I mean, it's absolutely rammed full of things, and just the complexity of managing and getting a project like that to work properly as you release it, which I'm not sure they've quite got by the sound of things. There's still firmware updates. There are people saying, "Oh, can it do this?" I've had a problem with this, that, or the other. I'm not saying it's broken, but I'm just saying it's not out of the gate 100% as good as it can be. And so somebody taking on a project like that as a manufacturer is kind of almost like, well, why would you do that? You want to make something that you can actually finish, sell, send off, not then spend the next 3 years having to do firmware updates to kind of make sure it reaches the potential that you'd hope, because it's more difficult and more complicated than you thought it was going to be. So I wonder whether we're going to see, again, not so much the largesse of something like that. I mean, that's like a flagship project. I suppose, the Behringer DS80, if that comes along, that's going to be something but that's going to be a few years away. So I think there's still some difficulty in being able to manage that much analog stuff. It's very difficult. That's why when you turn a synth on that's got a lot of voices, analog voices, it takes ages before you can make a sound, because it's got all its tune-up routines. Because, I mean, it's got to, otherwise it would be out of tune. So, and that's not what necessarily people want. Say you were doing a live set with a Moog 1, you're probably, and the power went down or something, I mean, yeah, you might have UPS if you're operating at that level, but if you haven't, it's a minute probably before you can make any noise with it.
Right. Gosh, yeah, that's kind of...
and that's not just a Moog thing, that's anything with that many voices is going to take a while to get ready. I mean, the
but if it's been in tune, if it's all tuned up and then loses power and then turns back on again, won't they get into tune a lot quicker? Aren't they sort of...
I don't know, but I mean, if that were the case, it would have to have a memory of the state it was in when it was before it was switched off. Do you see what I mean? I don't think so.
Yeah,
because it's just got a routine. Would be a routine no matter what. It's still going to have to calibrate itself.
Yeah. I noticed the Medusa is an interesting with what you're talking about in terms of a product becoming more mature after it's been on sale for a while. I think that did come out too early, because now it's on version 2.0. We did I've got it.
You did.
I've got a Medusa here.
Yeah.
And I've got it installed on this Medusa and been playing around with that, and there's some really nice features in it. Sort of the drones are great, and I think one of the features which is super cool is you can put in sequences. I mean, I think we did do this in our little video, but you can choose particular steps within that sequence and then apply some randomness to it. So it'll pick, so say the sequence is locked into a particular scale, it'll randomly pick notes out of that scale for that one step. So you can have all your steps going as normal, except that every time it passes that one step,
it can randomize.
The notes will change.
Okay.
But within whatever the scale is. So that's pretty cool. Have you seen that before?
I mean, I suppose that it's cool, but I mean, how many times a year would you use that feature? I suppose. I mean, maybe a bunch. I could understand that. I think the thing is with something like a Medusa or anything that has an unfamiliar interface is it's going to take a little while for things to come to fruition, because it's going to take a while for the designers and the users to kind of go, oh, this would be a really good way to use these things. And I know I've spoken to the guys at Polyend, and they said, perhaps we went a wee bit early when we could have just got some of those killer features in the firmware. But with that, you also, they're human. They're really excited. They're going, wow, look what we've done. Isn't it amazing? You got to see it. It's the same with the UDO guys, didn't they? They weren't really ready for prime time at Superbooth. Fortunately, it didn't sound rubbish, and George did a presentation that made everybody think, oh, this is great. And he was endearing. It wasn't just like you're having a laugh. It was kind of, oh, I can't wait. But it can go either way, can't it? As we've seen.
Yeah. No, I'm delighted how well that has been received, though, because George has focused extremely, on trying to get the absolute fundamental.
No, absolutely.
Basic
I mean, we did go. You mentioned that last week. Actually, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm trying not to.
No, you're right.
Try not to go over again. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You are right, though. Okay, look, let's do our isotope thing, and then we'll come back with another couple of topics.
RX continues to be the industry standard and leader in audio repair for music and post-production. And with RX-7, we've introduced groundbreaking new ways to quickly and easily fix and manipulate audio. Take the game-changing Repair Assistant, an intelligent helper that can detect noise, clipping, clicks, hum, and more. Also new in RX-7 is Music Rebalance, a powerful source separation tool. Drums too loud? Vocals not loud enough? Let's fix that. You can also create instrumental versions of songs by removing the vocal elements. You can now alter the pitch without affecting the timing of your audio, and conversely, alter the time without affecting the pitch with the new variable time and variable pitch modules. Using the new dialogue contour, you can improve the performance of a line or even create a new performance by altering the pitch contour of the dialogue, therefore adjusting the intonation of the speaker, and introducing Dialogue Dereverb, a module powered by machine learning to reduce the presence of reverberations around dialogue. RX-7, a new frontier in audio repair.
And of course, you can download a demo of Isotope's excellent audio tools. If you go to isotope.com, they got 10-day free demos with that. And we have a winner from last week's competition. Let's have a look. This is a guy called Wayne Rand, who's at Wayne Random, who's from Brooklyn. Let me win. Well, I am letting you win. It wasn't me that let you win. It was the random, bizarrely, also random number generator, which we use, and that pick your number out, and that's it. So well done. So if you want to get in touch, Wayne Random, we will be able to get you a copy of RX-7. And we've got another competition this week. We're looking for the hashtag #GoToAudioTools. You can win a copy of RX-7. All you need to do is tweet the following. The hashtag #GoToAudioTools, that's one word, and the hashtag RX7 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. That's a Twitter competition, so tweet those two things, and there's 140 characters or more now these days. You can put whatever you want in there. Do it, because it's always fun to see it go by. And as we know, the people at Isotope, they have a social wall, so they follow all their hashtags. So yes, the hashtag #GoToAudioTools, the hashtag RX7 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. will get you into the competition to win a copy of RX7. Okay, right, here we go. And I'm going to play this because it's a sort of happy birthday.
Of the keyboards, Mr. Rick Wakeman.
It's a bit late. Rick Wakeman was 70, can you believe it, on the 18th of May, which is, what are we at now? We're at the 20-something, aren't we? Only 4 days ago. And it struck me, what an amazing legacy he's got, because he did, not only has he got his kind of caped persona, but he played on so many records, so many things. And this video is really funny. It's minutes and minutes of him just sort of working his way around his various keyboards. He ends up, so he's on the G Mega, then he's on, so it's a pretty long solo. It's all very chordally. There we go. So he's not, I don't know if he's got the mini moog in there, so it's his little solo spot. I thought we could play it. I thought it's fair enough. Happy birthday, Rick. I did interview Rick once. It was almost impossible because he was working with Dave Spears on the Mini Monster, and obviously Rick's a famous Mini Moog player. And Dave very kindly, I've told this story before, but very kindly got me an interview with him, and he was just... Everything he said was pretty much unpublishable, so I don't think I can't remember whether we actually used any of it in the end because he was saying all kinds of stuff that was kind of like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to put that online, Rick. But he's a bit of a prankster. But yeah, 70 years old, eh? Imagine. I know. I guess he's still playing, still doing his thing, isn't he?
Yeah, there's some good footage of him playing with. Well, kind of Yes has kind of split into two again, as they did in the 1980s. You know, there's the Yes, which is
Yes Inc.
Which,
and the real Yes.
Well, there's the Yes with Steve Howe and Alan White, and the one that Chris Squire was in before he sadly passed. They're the ones who sacked John Anderson and got a singer in from a Yes tribute band to replace him, which is just unbelievable, isn't it? It's unbelievable. But anyway, John Anderson has now been going out with Rick Wakeman and Trevor Rabin from the 80s. Yes, very different. The 90125 era. Yes, but that Rick Wakeman wasn't part of. Strangely enough, Rick Wakeman was part of the 70s one. It's a bit confusing. It's a very confusing legacy with that band. But the reason why I was mentioning that though is that Rick Wakeman's now playing. It's called Yes, but they can't use.
Let's just be called No. It should just be a yes and a no.
But the Yes logo is owned by Steve Howe. The kind of curvy Roger Dean Yes logo. So when it's John Anderson, Rick Wakeman, and Trevor Rabin, it's this kind of like 80s sort of graphic of the name Yes. It's just kind of bit of a weird thing that the band's going out, but just the graphic is the thing that tells you which version it is.
Yeah, Steve
anyway,
Elbow. Steve Elbow says in the chat room, I think I've seen Rick more on the old TV program Grumpy Old Men more than I've ever seen him play live, and that's true. He's a real character. He's got some great stories, but again, none of them are really publishable. I expect he's got a book in him. He's probably done a book. I'd imagine it's probably worth reading.
He's a funny guy.
The reason I brought this up really was, what are these equivalents? I mean, I guess the only one I can really think of is Jordan Rudess, who is a sort of modern day Rick, but he's almost Rick in
Henry.
Well, no, it's not the same thing though, is it? It's Corey Henry is a brilliant player. He's more like your Joe Zawinul, your kind of Chick Corea. But you're kind of Rick Wakeman, your keyboard wizard style person. I mean,
right.
Obviously Jordan Rudess does his whole thing. He's got the Wiz and his Wiz app and all of that. So he plays on that. So he's essentially a kind of ersatz, or not ersatz. I suppose he's following on exactly the same tradition, that kind of concept. But I was wondering who else there was, and I was trying to think of a few names. I did write Corey Henry, Jordan Rudess,
Ayala Amir.
Ayala Amir.
Ayala Amir. He's absolutely fantastic. I think he's sort of he has done some stuff with Jordan Rudess. And his band, Project RNL.
Oh, I don't know how you spell that. I wonder how you spell that. Not the way I've spelled it.
Project RNL. But he's an incredible musician, AL. Well, actually, all the band are. But I think he has a little bit of that Rick Wakeman. He's quite a showman as well.
Oh, I think I've got something here. What's that? He can't be. He's only got one keyboard in this video. That's not what. Yeah, but you see, you're misunderstanding. Okay. I don't seem to be able to get any video.
Sorry.
You're misunderstanding my notion, the concept, right. Which is it's almost the prog thing. It's the showman keyboard. I was wondering about whether or not it's Brett Domino. Is a right, because he's
okay.
you know what I mean? There's this theatrical thing rather than because there are some brilliant keyboard players, no doubt about it. And Corey Henry is superbly technical, but also very vibey. I would say who's the guy from Noah, the keyboard player?
Lewis Cole.
Lewis Cole, brilliant, but not. I wouldn't say a kind of Rick style. Style thing. So who is there apart from Jordan? Do you think he's the only one?
There's
Jeff Downs, but they're the same thing.
Jeff Downs. Derek Sheridan. I don't know how to say his name. Shernian. Sorry, I'm saying his name wrong.
But who's he play with?
Did he not play with Dream Theater before Jordan? Possibly.
Oh, I don't know. I can't. I'm looking for searches, but for some reason my browser's not.
It's a scene. I don't know it very well. That scene.
So I suppose that's the thing. There aren't. I mean, there's.
No, I think your point.
And that's a good thing, isn't it? That means that there is someone who is just so unique and so only of their kind, and that's Rick Wakeman. I'm trying to think. Jeff Downs is coming.
Yeah. Oh gosh, there's no one really.
Derek Sheridan. Okay, Synth Anatomy. Okay. I've got a secret. I think Synth Anatomy is a secret progger, and he doesn't mention it. He was very quick off the mark there. Derek Sharoninian, yes, okay. Wikipedia. Derek Signal Chain interview with Derek getting fired from Dream Theater. Oh, that's not an interview we're probably going to watch. And anyway, there's no point because for some reason there's no sound in my browser. But yeah, so good for Rick, I would say.
No, but you're right though. I mean, and also having the kind of crazy ambition to do the sort of King Arthur on Ice and these which seem like laughable now, don't they? But really, that is kind of indicative of some crazy belief. Coming back to that early conversation we were having, the King Arthur on Ice is sort of. It was so much easier.
It led to punk, didn't it? Really? No, you can't do that. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I suppose. Really. Him. I wonder how much rival there was between him and Keith Emerson, because they were very much. The big three: Keith Emerson, maybe Patrick Moraz, and who's the other guy?
Tony Banks,
Jeff Downs, Tony Banks. There's this sort of. There's a strut. An age of keyboard players who.
The greatest, though, and who would play the multi-keyboard. The greatest one, though. Even better than Rick, dare I say, is Kerry Monier from Gentle Giant. He's the best. He's the best. He's the best. And you see footage of him playing, and you'll see him go between all the different keyboards. What did he have? He had about 8 in the stack. Did he? He had Minimoog, Wurlitzer, clavinet. His clavinet playing is amazing. What else did he have? He had a lot. Maybe he had 2 Whirlies, possibly, or it was a Rhodes and a Whirly.
It's the equivalent of 2 bass drums and a gong, isn't it? It's like.
But Rich Hilton. Sorry, Rich Hilton will concur, though. I think that Kerry. He's very different from Rick. It's not really fair to compare them, but he's just the most remarkable keyboard player. I've known various keyboard players, professional keyboard players, who, when I ask them. Kerry Monier is their choice. He's like the greatest of them all, and I think he is as well.
Okay, well that's fair enough. But yeah, it's an interesting. There's not so many of those guys, because I'm sure that Mike Linder. We're getting some names in now, but you see they're technical. They're not. Anyway, no,
there's an interesting one. Jim Gilmore from Saga, the Canadian band. He was incredibly. He was.
I just don't. Wally Badarou, I could come up with maybe, but he's not really the same sort of thing. It's not this.
William D. Drake's name has been mentioned.
Okay.
Phenomenal.
Anyway, there's tons of it, isn't there? Okay, well, all right. Let's get on to something else. There's one other thing here, which see if I can find it. Where is it? That's not it. It's there. I had it somewhere. Oh yeah, here we go. This is the Rhythmic Robot, which is kind of Chamberlain Rhythmate. Rhythmic Robot Audio have created a version of the Chamberlain is sort of a tape-based playback thing, which obviously spawned the come on, brain.
The Mellotron.
The Mellotron, yes, that's right. Thank you. And this was a similar sort of thing, and it did the same thing for drums. And I think, this isn't going to work. I don't know what's happened to my audio. It seems to have disappeared, which is a bit weird. Let me see if I can find out why that might be. Audio, sound flat. Yeah, it's not working.
They've programmed in the Amen break. Into it.
That's really weird. It's not working anyway. I can't play it. That's a bit annoying. I wonder if I can play a video, which is the original one. But it's $20 this thing, and it comes with I don't know how many. Yeah, it's cheap. It's reasonable, isn't it? I don't know why. yeah, why that's not working. That's very curious. Ah, hold on, I know why. I turned it off.
Come on.
Crikey, that's pretty exotic, wasn't it? I found it now. It's starting to work. But they also there's talk of this being the first drum machine. So I've got a video of that. Let me see what video it was. Was it this one? I think it was this. This is from P. Hicks. So this is actually the thing itself, the Chamberlain Rhythm 8. And it's again.
Oh God, how amazing is that?
It's the quality of those recordings.
Yeah.
And this is from P. Hicks, who's probably the world expert on this kind of stuff. Look at that, you move
it through the tapes.
So yeah, that's a lot of fun. But I'm of the mind that it isn't
lovely.
actually. Well, somebody also said that no, the first one was the Rhythmicon, which was Leon Theremin's thing. So this is a video of I think the Rhythmicon. But when you listen to it, I would argue that it's not really a drum machine at all in any way whatsoever. Sounds like a flock of baby ducks. So I don't know. I mean, it was 1930s. So whoever it was to put in the comment, I'm not sure about that.
Oh, it's cool. Drum machine's got to be so good enough that you could actually use in place of a drummer, I guess. To some degree.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's
for it to qualify for this particular what a drum machine is, I would have thought
a machine that
if you want to get
drums.
into the
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
John Van Eaton says the Sideman could be it. Was that a Fender? Was that?
Wurlitzer Sideman.
Wurlitzer Sideman. Okay, I'm going to look that up now.
I think that could be, couldn't it? Because I mean, when did those rhythms start appearing on sort of home organs?
Oh, that's very difficult. Wurlitzer Sideman. Oh, Wurlitzer Sideman is what I'm looking. Let's see if I can find a video. Wurlitzer Sideman. Here we go. It's a tube drum machine. Let's have a look at this one.
Oh yeah.
Is that actually playing? Oh man, that sounds nice.
It does, doesn't it?
Oh, look at that! Yeah, I think that could possibly be
right.
So each of those solder points is presumably a rhythm, right?
Yeah.
That bass drum sounds amazing. Yeah. Okay. I don't know what date that was, but that's a good call, good shout. Now that is
you could use that
beauty, isn't
in
it?
place of a drummer, couldn't you?
I would say so. Oh, look at that! And that's the gearing that slows down. Oh wow! Oh, brilliant! So look, so you bring it in, and it's
super cool.
Just really simple. Oh, that's awesome, isn't it? I'm so glad. Thanks, John Van Eaton, in the chat room.
Yeah, good find.
Oh wow! He says actually, yes, I've got one of those. It's like 1956 or 59. Yeah, I'd say that beats the Chamberlain. Chamberlain was 60 something, wasn't it? So,
I think was it? Yeah, like 60. Yeah.
And who was it who said that in the Sinister Goatfish says that old synth smell, and it would have smelt like a very old valve radio. I don't know if you remember. When I was a kid, I used to buy stuff like that from jumble sales, car boot sales equivalent. And I bring them home and you turn them on, and the smell that you get from a valve radio when you switch it on, which is all that waxed cardboard heating up and all the dust on the valves.
The dust.
Yeah, it's very evocative, isn't it?
Lovely. So, do we think we've got a winner then for drum machine? Are we going to say the Wurlitzer Sideman?
The first one, Well, so far I think the Wurlitzer Sideman gets the earliest that is actually a drum machine. So good call.
What about programmable drum machine then?
Wow. What was the first programmable drum machine? Now that is a really good question. I mean, that's the sort of thing I feel I should know off off
I should know this too.
The first programmable drum machine.
The chat room surely will know.
First programmable drum machine.
Because I mean, like the 808, that was one of the things, apart from the sound that made it special, was you could program complete, quite sophisticated song arrangements into it. So,
Right.
I mean, I don't know if that would qualify, but I mean, you could chain together, like drum patterns in all sorts of time signatures and that sort of thing. You can go quite deep in that respect with the 808 as a.
Well, according to this this mixdown mag, it goes from Rhythmicon, which I would actually do. I would challenge that. Rhythmicon to the Wurlitzer Sideman, to
Okay.
the CR78, but that's not programmable, was it? To
No,
the
well-
LM1.
Okay.
I don't know if the LM1 was the first programmable one. Good call.
But,
I've never really been
I don't
much
know,
of a
I
drum
think
machine person, so I'm afraid. But I mean, again, I refer back. I can't wait to get this. I'll put this out soon. This is the Dave Rossum. Dave Rossum was involved in the design review for the LM1, as well as all of this incredible kind of sampling. Some of the stuff that he's had a hand in is kind of the essence of what we now call digital audio workstations, effects, recording,
that's
samplers.
amazing. That's
he's
huge.
Yeah, great guy.
Because he was Emu. He's the guy behind Emu was the Emu side of
Emu,
sampling, wasn't he?
He was the
Wow.
and not only that, but the modular. They built a modular. The Emu modular was the first one, but then was one of the first people to kind of understand the kind of the possibilities of digital and how he kind of figured it out. He was really interesting. He was telling me as he was when he was a kid, his dad was really not into music because his mother, I think, was married to a musician who also happened to be a drinker and was a bad sort. So his dad had learned that musicians were not something to be encouraged. So Dave was never, they weren't actually allowed to like music or play music because it was like bad stuff could happen. And now he's a massive hip hop fan. He's because of all of the stuff that he's enabled. It's brilliant. It's
That's
excellent.
cool. So Div Kid has kind of popped up in the comments. 1972, Eco released the Computer Rhythm 1972, which was the first programmable drum machine.
Okay.
Because
Rhythm.
and then the CR78 was programmable if you bought the programmer. So I haven't seen that. That would be interesting to see the CR78 programmer.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Eco-Rhythm drum machine. This is 1972. Someone's been on Goo. Was that? I wonder if Ben knew that or he just looked it up and posted that link. Here we go. This is it.
That's cool. Oh, look at that. That's nice.
Oh, I like that.
Oh, I want.
And that looks like 16 steps, doesn't it? But you were doing 12s there. There was definitely triplets going on. So. Well, there you go.
Lovely.
Wow, that's an awesome thing. Wouldn't it be lovely to have one of those just about the place?
Oh, yeah. Wow. No, come on, Behringer. That's what we want. One of them. Yeah.
Yes.
That's cool. I was thinking when you're talking about Emu, I remember firing up an Emu 2, an emulator 2, big old grey thing, and putting the floppy disks into it and just... and hearing this, that was an incredible sounding sampler. That was. I mean, I'm guessing 12-bit, or would it have been 8-bit? No, 12-bit probably, wouldn't it?
8 or 12, I would think. But with analog filters, I would imagine.
It sounded absolutely immense, and I'm fairly sure it still would sound immense. It's a long time since I've heard one. But I guess you could probably retrofit a kind of SD card into one now.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure that
people
do that. People do that and then fit the entire library. It's like the history of sampling on one SD card.
So a friend of mine's got like I can't remember. It's like one of the '90s rack Emu samplers, and it's got like next to no market value. But that'll still have Dave Rossum's involvement in, will it?
I imagine a lot of the tech because he designed some of the chips that went in those instruments. because
interesting.
so that's what he was also they were building their own stuff, so I mean that's the thing that in the interview I talked to him about it, and they had to invent their own kind of tools to make, because none of this stuff existed, or the only place you could buy it was from some really esoteric kind of test company. It would cost a fortune. Gosh, time has flown. We seem to have managed to fill all of that time with lots of words and whatnot without running short. Thank you, Gaz. Oh yeah, there we go. That sounds like your woofers are really woofing on that one.
This going to play a bit more with this thing. I'm going to probably do a live stream on it, I think, at some point on my channel, just to sort of noodle on it, not a review or anything, just literally a noodle.
Yeah, I mean, how is it? Is it finished, or has it still got a bit of stuff to do?
I think it is actually released firmware on here, so it's super close to them coming out, and I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how well they sell, because as great as it is massive. I
wonder. Well, that's an interesting thing. I mean, I think there's a lot of because that video you did on the TR-09, that's the biggest video we got from Superbooth, and I mean, I'm surprised. I'm not surprised it's big, but I'm surprised it's the biggest, because it's not. I mean, it's a 909. I mean, I suppose the thing is, it's such an iconic thing.
It's more, but I do think it's like kind of more than a 909 though. It's that thing of giving people what they want, the multiple outs, the big form factor. It's sort of it is kind of.
You think we're going to see a load of blokes of a certain age going out live playing 90s rave at pubs with Behringer 909s?
But I mean, I think I was alluded to this before. I mean, I wish I had the TR-08 here with me just to compare directly. But as much as I enjoyed playing around with that, this thing does feel like it's something else. That it does feel, it has got a bit of that danger, a little bit of that extra something. It's, I say danger. Do you know what I mean? It's got
edge. It's just got an edge to it.
Yeah, when you do mess with that filter as well, and you kind of go, "Oh, okay, this thing."
Well, I mean, I think the TR-8S had that as well. The TR-8S was a really big drum machine, and it's a really good drum machine.
It's a fantastic drum machine. It's arguably the best drum machine that they've ever made. The TR-8S. It's sort of, in terms of its
a shame
combination
it's a shame they don't. Just iterate, why does it have to be an 8? They could be a 10. Maybe they should go in tandem with the release of iPhones. So that would have been a 9 really back then, wouldn't it? So it should have been a TR-9.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I can't, because then it's the TR-09. Yeah. Maybe they've shot themselves in the foot. Have to wait until we reach double figures.
But curious to see. I'm fairly sure this is going to be a massive hit for Behringer, this one and the 909. I think that they're not. So I think this is going to be available to buy in June, or the end of June, maybe.
909 is going to be
July,
a bit later on, isn't it? A bit later on. Probably.
I think it's going to be more like autumn time, I think, or early autumn. But I think these 808s, I think if you were to put an order in now, would be a good idea, because I reckon they're going to sort of be. They're going to sell.
They're always the first run takes a little bit of time. All right. Well, I think we're gonna knock it on the head. We're going to say goodbye. I'm going to just quickly plug the Isotope thing again. If you want to enter the competition, we're looking for the hashtag #GoToAudioTools. That's one word. Well, it's actually 4 words joined together. But go to Audio Tools and the hashtag RX7 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. and that'll enter into the competition. And we thank also Softube for supporting the show. Gaz,
cool.
Sorry.
Can we get a plug-in for my Rocket Gold Stuff video?
You know what?
Hardly anyone's seen it.
I was going to play out with that. You were ahead of me, but
thanks.
Yes. So this is
I'm sorry.
Gaz. Obviously, Rocket Gold Star. You did a video for this, which tell us a little bit about it before we play, and then we'll play out, and then
it was just revisiting a kind of a recentish tune that was just sitting around doing nothing, and I just to help sort of promote the gigs. We're doing a couple of gigs just to help promote that, I thought it'd be fun to make a video. So I had an idea for this one, for this song, to just do lots of my head in lots of colourful, kind of, this quite in your face kind of way. But it's kind of, I think it goes with the song quite well. But it was literally just to sort of promote this little bit of activity, because what we're going to do is we're going to sort this out in the next few days. We're going to put a big back catalogue load of stuff up on Spotify. There's a whole mass of stuff that's never been available, and we're going to whack a load of it out over on all the regular kind of digital channels. So I suppose this video is going to be in part to promote that. Because like Rocket Gold Star, like late 90s, early 2000s, that's when we had our great time, but there was so little of it's been chronicled. It was before YouTube, it was before social media as we have now. So very little of it exists. It's almost as if we made it all up.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
The further
so
back
we're going to do
go.
we're going to do a big release of a load of the old stuff. So that video, that's what this video is.
All right, well, we'll play it out. Thank you very much, everybody, for
you.
watching. That was Sonic Talk, episode 577, in fact. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you all next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Who talked about TFLA? Teachers, fabulous logic. Who thought about TFLA? Teachers, fabulous logic. Who